My name's Tim DeMella, and welcome to the 5 biblical myths that promote mental illness. In this video, or videos, you're going to discover things about things that are in the Bible that really actually promote mental illness by thinking of the Bible as a letter of the law rather than reading it in the spiritual vernacular. The letter of the law is more of a child's view of the Bible, where the spiritual of the law gets you more into the developing into an adult. Okay, so for those who want to transcend from where they are in an institution that seems probably is the truth, that they are trying to keep you there, and you feel guilty about leaving, but you also feel a sense within you that you have to leave. It's all about, you've gotten enough information, you've discovered the fundamentals, you understand that God is unconditionally loving, and you got that principle, and now you're ready to follow your own spirit within yourself, which is that unconditionally loving spirit that everybody has a capability of connecting with. And you're ready to follow it. Or at least you think you're ready to follow it. It's a scary thing, but it's something that we all need to do. Get out of childhood, go through our adolescence, and become true adults. Okay? And that's really what this is all about. It's debunking certain things in the Bible. And I think these are the 5 most important myths that so that you can do that and make them free to be who you are supposed to be, and who you really are, to tell you the truth. So come with me on this adventure, and I hope you get a lot out of it. Okay, so myth number 1. Myth number 1 is that you are not worthy to be with God. You are not worthy to be with the Holy Spirit. The truth is that everybody has that. Everybody has it. Everybody can connect to God through the Holy Spirit and with them all together. So it's the Father, you, and the Holy Spirit. And everybody has the capability, has a chance to be connected in that way. And the way that works is that you always were able to do this, for one thing. Okay, but Jesus came along and said to the church of the day, no. The Spirit calls upon the person to bring them to God. And it has to do with healing and health, mental health. Okay? The hindbrain is your cognition brain. It's, I only believe what I see. It's also called your first stage, first heaven of your spiritual child brain. Okay, it's logical, and like I say, it's only what you see is what you believe. Okay, that's that brain. That's your hindbrain. The scientists say that most people only use 10% of their brain. Well, that's true, because if you think about it, back here in your hindbrain, that really is 10%. of your brain, your use of your brain back there. All right. That's the first heaven. Your second heaven is in the middle. It's also called your middle brain. All right. Your middle brain is for spiritual adolescence, how to control and help control your emotions as you're going through life, just like any adolescent would have a trouble doing. But also the adolescent is healthily separating from its parents, from its worldly parents. Okay. And then the third stage, the third heaven, is your frontal brain, your forebrain. Okay. That's where your regulation comes in of your emotions and your cognitive brain back here. Okay. And that's called your prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex was not there pre-Neanderthal days. If you take a look, it was concave. It wasn't really there. So it had to evolve, and then once it evolved, you actually had that regulation there, and you also had the spirit and God. So if you want to say that's where that all came in, from they call whatever Eden or whatever, you have the prefrontal cortex, which is your forebrain up here. Okay. Now, that's what's called your spiritual adult. Your spiritual adult in the third stage is where you're whole and you're one with spirit and God. Okay. Your middle is your emotional state. And you're going through a whole lot of vulnerability. You're showing a lot of vulnerability, and you're going through a lot of emotion. And your back here is your cognitive, logical, which most people stay in because they're afraid to show their vulnerability. But if you stay in here all through your life, you depend so much on your will instead of having faith in your spirit that you become narcissistic, or you become a victim. Okay, so it's a passive aggressive state and a manipulative state, and children are so manipulative, and that's why it's called that's why I call it the spiritual child stage or brain. Okay, the spirit calls upon the person back here, from here, okay, to bring the person who's here through the emotional, through life, and following its own spirit, the person's own spirit, and bringing it to the person's God. All right. And the first myth is that you're not worthy of God, but you are, because the Spirit comes back and brings you there. And you had to believe that, the church back then had to believe that Jesus died so that it could transcend that back brain and go into the emotional and go into the forebrain. Okay, so you most definitely are worthy. You most definitely were naturally supposed to transcend the back brain. But the problem is that those who are afraid to show vulnerability, their truth of who they really are, will stay in the back brain, childish, narcissistic, sociopathic, and these are usually the heads of institutions who are trying to get you to never leave. And so they come up with this make-believe story, these rules and everything, so that make you feel guilty for leaving. And they say that they are the place to be, and if you don't stay there, there's a problem with you. And that's called gaslighting. And so all these institutions, religion, family, work, whatever you want to call it, if they're like that, they're gaslighting you. And so that's why you need to leave. You need to leave as soon as you're possibly aware of this. You need to just leave. And you say, well, where do I go? You go through the 12 steps, which I'm going to talk to you about in the next myth. Okay? So God is unconditionally loving. The Spirit is unconditionally loving. And you have to understand in the first, in the hindbrain, understand that, of what unconditional love means. Institutions are okay if they're fine, if they provide you with the fundamentals of what unconditional love is, so that you can transcend, you can continue on going. Okay, but if they don't do that, or they're more narcissistic and they want to stay there because they're too scared of showing their truth, then what you're going to wind up is with conditional love, and that's not what Jesus died for. Okay, that's not at all what Jesus died for. So that's myth number one. Myth number two. The book of Revelation is about Jesus coming back and saving all of us. The book of Revelation is about overcoming addiction. John the Apostle, who was exiled, was a addict. He could not get his drugs once he was exiled. Revelation is divided into three parts. First part is where it talks all about the addiction. Each church has a certain addiction. One has an addiction to drugs. And so it talks about getting over it in 10 days, which we all know if you go cold turkey, it takes about 10 days to get over drugs. Another one is about sex addiction and Jezebel. These are all addictions people, or in the Bible they call sins, but that's not true. That's just a mental illness. Okay, so these are addictions. The second part in the in Revelation is getting off the drugs and going through detox. That's why everything is crazy. Okay, detox. There are 12 steps in getting healing from addiction. You have to believe you have a problem, then you have to ask for help, then you have to receive help, then you have to meet to get help. All right, wherever that help is, you have to go there and actually commit yourself into that place to get help. To then, fifth step, understand your problem, your situation, your addiction, what's going on. Fully understand it so that you can make, number 6, a sound decision, a sound judgment, a sound choice. Then you're able to take a leap of faith into the 7th step, which is the going through the valley of the shadow of death. Or Jesus went into the desert. It's the same thing. You got to face your demons. But usually it takes about, maybe 1 to 3 months. Okay. Jesus was in the desert 40 days. So that's about a month and a half. All right. Then once you go through that valley of the shadow of death, you go into the 8th step, which is called acceptance. I accept myself as human. I'm not perfect. And so give myself a break. Forgive myself. Okay. Then after that, things are really clear. You've come back into balance. Your emotions are in balance now. And you're able to devote yourself to staying clean and to learning about life and what it has to offer. And you bring, with all these experiences, the wisdom that you bring along with it. And then that's the 9th step, the devotion towards that, adjusting yourself to remain and maintain balance. Then after you're totally done with that, you go into the 10th step, which is completion. which is being as one. You are whole. Okay, that's the 10th step. All right, that's the 3rd stage, by the way. And then after you become whole, then you are free. And that's the 11th step. Then you have the 12th step, which is heaven on earth. In Buddhism, it's called the remainder. So what you have is you have nirvana with the remainder. You have heaven on earth. Those are the 12 steps to addiction. Okay, myth number 3. Myth number 3 is that you need them more than they need you. Okay, what does this mean? This means that these institutions are telling you that without them you would be nowhere. All right? And that you need them to get anywhere that you want to be or you need to be. Okay? And without them, you're going to go nowhere, or you're going to go to somewhere where you don't want to be, and so forth and so on. Where the truth is, it's the total opposite. It's the total opposite. Okay? That's called gaslighting, what they're doing to you. The truth is that when you find out and you realize that they are gaslighting you, and you transcend into the 2nd stage where they don't want to go, they want to remain children, okay, that you're going to find out with clarity that they need you way more than you ever needed them. They need you way more than you ever needed them. Without you, they would collapse. Just like a bully who's a child, a bully tries to get you to do whatever it wants you to do, because the thing is that without you, it'd crash and die. It needs followers. So either follow it or you're going somewhere else. But the thing is that if you don't follow it, it crashes and dies. And that's exactly what happens. It forces that institution to become vulnerable. And they'd rather go to war than to anybody ever see the truth about them. Okay? So, if you ever listen to this song it's Ted Nugent back in the early 70s called Stranglehold, it's exactly what happened with his record company. His record company didn't believe in him enough, okay, or maybe even not at all. And they demanded that he go a certain way. They demanded it, or they're going to leave. Which was a bluff, because they knew they needed him on their label. And Ted Nugent said, oh yeah? Well, I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to go my way, and I'm going to make this 8-minute song called Stranglehold, which you think is too long, and I'm going to make it anyway, and you're going to find out that you need me way more than I ever needed you. And when you find that, and when I get to that point, and you realize this, and you know that, okay, you're going to realize that I now have a stranglehold on you, because I'm selling albums. I'm selling millions and millions of albums, and you're making a whole lot of money, and then you're going to realize that without me, you'd crash and burn. And so he went and he did his own thing. He transcended and did his own thing, and he became very successful. I don't agree with a lot of things that Ted Nugent believes in and all that and everything, you know. I don't even know if we could be buddies. But the thing is, I've never met the guy. Okay, so I'm pretty But the thing is that he did it right. He did it right. He followed his spirit, and his spirit said, "Make music and go for it," and that's what he did. So that's that third myth. They need you way more than you need them. That's the truth. And the myth is that they're trying to make you believe that you need them way more than they need you. It's the exact opposite. Okay? Okay, myth number 4. I went through the 12 steps, right? And in the book of Revelation, they talk about this 666 is the devil. And that's what the devil is, 666. But it also says in there right after that this takes wisdom. What does this 666 mean? 666 is nothing more than 3 strikes you're out. Then get off the fence. Then it's a timeout. Okay? Adam and Eve, if you believe in that story, denied telling the truth to God. When asked, what did you do? They didn't face up to it. Peter denied Christ 3 times. Same thing. 3 strikes you're out. 333 goes throughout the entire Bible. It's the same thing over and over again. Okay? People are going to try to put a stigma on you. Okay? And the reason a lot of times you're mentally unhealthy is because these people put a stigma on you. They're trying for you to follow them so much and be dedicated to them so much that you are that if you don't, then you're in what's called sin. Okay, and what's called sin. This is what creates mental illness, where they're trying for you to follow them and whatever conscience they have. Okay, and the point is that you are never supposed to follow anybody else's conscience. You're supposed to develop your own. Develop your own. Yeah, there's values, fundamental values, right? We don't just off the street, we're not sociopaths. We don't kill people. We don't do, things like that, right? But the thing is that they have their own conscience and they want you to follow their conscience. Okay? That a family institution, a religious institution, or any kind of institution can do. And if you're in an institution that tries for you to do that tries for you to drink the Kool-Aid, get out. Because that is a sick institution. Sick institution. Okay? Sin is nothing more than somebody trying to tell you that you are not following their conscience. That's all that is. And by somebody telling you that, really what sin stands for is seeing inside nobody. Seeing inside nobody. They're not seeing inside you. They don't really want to get to know you inside. They just want you to follow their own conscience to save you. And they believe that by doing this, they're saving you, which is mentally ill. That's mental illness. That's a definition of mental illness. Okay? So, in the, also, know this, okay? Okay? Really judge what you really need to do in here, okay? Because in here is where the church is, All right, when Jesus told Peter, build my church, what he's really saying is within you. Within you. You really don't believe in me. You really don't believe in me. And they didn't believe in him until you go through the book of John, and then you see at the end, they finally believe in him. They finally accept who he is, because he's leaving. He's leaving. Okay? What sect leader leaves before their followers? None. It's always the other way around. Notice that? Okay? So 666 is the 6th step in the 12 steps, which is judge for yourself. You understand now, at least mentally, judge for yourself whether you want to take that leap of faith into the valley of the shadow of death, that 7th step of going through trust and faith just with your spirit to transcend and get out of childhood. All right, 666. And it's the same thing. It's judge. I'm going to ask you once. What are you going to say? I'm going to ask you another time. I'm going to ask you another time. And then if after 3 times, I'm going to put you in a timeout. I'm going to put you in a timeout. All right. And it's the same thing with the Garden of Eden. After 3 times, he put them in a timeout and then brought them back. Okay. It's the same thing. Okay. So that's all that 666 is. All right. It's not the devil. It's taking the judgment, and that takes wisdom to and courage to take that leap of faith. Okay, so with all this said, okay, sin, 666, all ties together. 666 is not the devil. Sin is not this thing where you're going to go to hell if you sin and everybody's sinning and all that. In fact, the people who are narcissistic, the people who are telling you that, are actually promoting sin so that you'll stay there with them by not seeing inside you. By not seeing inside you. And you want them to. You idolize them. Please see inside me. Please see inside me. And they never will. They never will, because they're conditionally loving and they need you to follow their conscience. All right, and so we come to the final myth, myth number 5. Myth number 5 is that the Bible is a literal interpretation of God. It is not. The Bible is a combination of unconditional love and conditional love by man. It is the conscience of pretty much a single person his name was Constantine, and he made himself the Holy Roman Emperor, and they had all these, they all came together and they wrote this Bible, and if it didn't match Constantine's version, Constantine's thinking, his conscience, then it wasn't going to go into that Bible. Okay? What Constantine kind of really didn't realize is that he invited all these spiritual people and all that into these conferences and stuff. But he didn't realize that a lot of these people were very wise people, very spiritual people, and understood everything that I'm talking about in these videos, and that what they put in there, they knew he wouldn't understand. He would take it one way, thinking that it was his way, when really it was the true way, the spiritual way of Jesus. He would take it in the literal context, where they knew that he wouldn't be able to understand it because he was childish. He wouldn't be able to understand it in the spiritual vernacular. So when you read Jesus and you read about what he's talking about and all that, that's in the spiritual vernacular. You have to read it in the spiritual vernacular, not the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. Okay? And you'll realize what he's talking about when he talks about the church and he talks about these religious people and all that. Okay? And about what they're doing, this was it, 6 woes, and what they're doing to these people, making them like their own, and all that and everything. You read the Bible in the spiritual vernacular, not in the literal vernacular, you'll realize who Jesus is really talking about. The Holy Roman Emperor was a narcissist. He was a child. He was never going to think. He was never going to get outside of this childish thinking. Yeah, he was a spiritual child. But he thought himself next to God. He thought himself this great, grandiose figure, which is a narcissist sociopath. And so what he saw, what he read, was that this isn't me, this is you. You got the problem, I don't have the problem. Where the wisdom in these great wise people that came over and helped do the Bible and everything was they wrote it in a spiritual vernacular where you have the problem, I'm not the problem, you're the problem. In other words, the Roman emperor is the problem. The people who follow the Holy Roman Emperor are the problem. Anybody who's high institutional, who's trying to make you follow their own conscience, is the problem. Who thinks greater than themselves, than they really are, is the problem. So if you read it by the letter of the law, you're going to think that everybody else is the problem but you. Where if you read it in the spirit, the spirit of the law, you're going to realize it's the absolute other way around. And that there's a lot more people, way, way, way more people who feel and have to go through life and are deep in the adolescence, feel guilty about all this, that they've been gaslighted all their life. Okay, and so the myth is that the Bible is the whole thing from word number 1 to word number the last word is that that is the conscience of God. And that is not the conscience of God, except where Jesus talks, and these great wise people who came to these conferences knew the spiritual of the law, and put that in there, knowing that whoever connects with their spirit would realize this, and would connect. The spirit would connect with the spirit, the true spirit of Jesus. Okay, so that's, you have to decide, are you going to read it to the letter of the law, or are you going to read it in the spirit of the law? And if you go through the Bible, this is what Paul is trying to tell you in Romans, in the book of Romans. Okay, this is what so many people are trying to tell you. In the Old Testament, there's I can't remember the book, but there's a book that says that goes to the Spirit. They call Jesus later on in the New Testament, but they go to the Spirit and they say, should I go at what you've taught me? Should I go ahead and seal? And the Spirit says, no, don't seal this one. They're never going to understand it anyway. They're never going to get it anyway. You don't need to seal it. Okay? So it takes wisdom to understand all this, and you have to go through your spiritual childhood, transcend that into your spiritual adolescence, transcend that into your spiritual adulthood. And once you're in your spiritual adulthood, no one's going to be able to ever gaslight you again. Okay, because you see everything clearly, and you're your own person with your own spirit, and you're like this with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Father, you, and the Holy Spirit. Because Jesus died. But everybody has those three. And everybody can be connected like this and become whole by following your own spirit, your own truth, your own unconditional love. And continue. And whenever you ever hear things from all these other people and everything, trying to get you to do their way and everything and follow their conscience, it's nothing. It's an illusion. It's them. It has nothing to do with you. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. Okay, so just whisk it away and follow your own truth. Follow your own spirit within. Develop your own church within you. And when you hear all that around you and everything like that, just get in with your own spirit. Meditate, if you want to call it that. Be mindful of the spirit that's within you, and it will tell you what to do. It will tell you more, like Jesus said in the book of John. I have way more to tell you than you can ever get out of this Bible. Than I've told you so far. I have a lot more to tell you. And that's true, because as you follow it, you obey it, and you follow it, because it loves you and you love it, you'll realize this, and you'll be extremely grateful that not only it told you it, but I think you'll be grateful of these videos as well. So I love you, and I hope this really, really does help you get over and transcend your mental illness. Remember, transcending is the key. Transcending is the key. Get out of the childhood and get into your spiritual adolescence, which is extremely difficult, I know. Find somebody to help support you, a therapist or somebody like that who's really good at it, and not somebody who takes the Bible as a letter of the law. That's fruitless. Okay, so I love you, and leave a comment. Leave comments and if you want. But anyway, talk to you later. Bye. If you like this content and you want more, place comments down below, and I'll make more videos to answer any questions that you might have. Now, I know I'm going to get, I expect to get a lot of negative comments out of here, but also a lot of positive comments. The negative comments, again, are just institutional comments from children who really haven't grown up, haven't transcended. And I hope they will. I really do, because it's the only way to be free in who you are. You may think you're free, but there'll come a time when you'll realize you're really not free. But in any case, I hope that you learned a lot from this video. And again, put comments down there. Subscribe. I don't get any money off of this. It's not monetized as of now. But I would like if you would subscribe, because then I would know that this really matters to you, and I can make and it would be really good to make more videos. That would be very helpful. All right, so I love you, and I hope that things work out for you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.